Bob, I understand you've got a special guest with us tonight that's going to teach us a thing or two about antennas.
I do. It's a great Christmas present. I met up with him through EHAM. There was a listing on EHAM about his website, and I'm going, wait a minute. So we're going to learn a lot about it because he's got some great graphics. And Dick, how are you? Dick Reid, KK4OBI. Sure, nice to have you with us, Dick.
Yeah, you know that when I got on there with you guys, you see what I did. I got my hat on so I could be just like you folks.
That's great. Well, I think probably the best thing to do is to have Brian bring up your website, and let's just go through some of it. There it is, and I entice everybody to look this up because there's a lot of information. And when you page down, things really start to happen. Your graphics are incredible, and we want to look through some of those. There you go. All right, and let's stop right there, Brian. Let's talk about that. Dick, tell us a little bit what we're seeing here and how you did that.
Yeah, okay. Let's slide over a little bit and pick up the menu side also on this. Yeah, a little more. Okay. Now go up to the top of the menu. Okay, and right up there you see it says horizontal. Okay, so it's organized. Everything is just a dipole, and we start out with a horizontal, and we can take a horizontal antenna, a dipole, and do a lot of stuff with it. So you see the standard dipole, and what you're looking at in the text here is when you click on that link, this is what you see, the horizontal dipole, and these are the characteristics of a dipole. There's nothing amazing here. This is what we've been looking at all our lives. The one thing, now stop right there. Where it says 4NEC2 antenna model here. Every page on here has an antenna model or more that's behind what the data that you see that's been developed and compiled and shown in the graphics right here. This is for the fellows that say, oh, hey, you know, that's something that I was thinking about, and I wondered what happens if I were to make this so it would be like my place, where it's only 40 feet high on this side and 20 feet on this side, and I got a 20-foot peak on my roof, and so on and so forth. They can, if they're into modeling, they can take that and go and jigger with it. If you scroll down a little bit here, now, there you go, standard stuff. This is your typical polar graph that you can see all the time. The antenna is, and all the antennas in here are set up in an idealized way. This one, like all of them, are going to be at a half-wave elevation, which is the perfect point. That's where you get, as you can see right there, a nice, no vertical radiation. It's all horizontal coming off the sides of the dipole. And the red line on the left there, that's looking down on the 3D graphic on the right. The blue line is looking at the side of that 3D graphic on the right. So you see these polar graphs a lot, but you don't see the 3D, and the 3D really helps make it come alive there. All right, scroll down a little bit more. Okay, stop there. Now, where it says click here is to see a table of elevation effects on antenna radiation patterns for these bands, 160, 75, 40, 20. You click on that. There you go. You need to slide over a little bit. No, to the left. You're losing the left side. No, you're losing the left side. There you go. Okay. And when you look down the right side there, you see that same pattern we were just looking at. But when you're only a tenth of a wavelength off of the ground, you basically have, I don't know, what would you call that? A
cloud
ball?
Cloud.
I don't know what you call that, but most of the radiation is going up, right? And when you get up to a quarter wavelength, it's starting to go out. When you get up to a half wavelength, voila, there you go. You got a nice standard dipole half wave pattern that goes out from the size of the antenna. When you go on up to 75, there's the ground reflection coming up, and now you got all kinds of your radiation going straight up again. And so if you raise it a little bit more, up to one wavelength, lo and behold, if you look on the right there, you see that that ball that went up flattens out. You're going to have to back out just a little bit so you can see the graphic, the 3D. Yeah, there. You see that ball flattens out? And when it flattens out like that, now you have two rings. And when you go up a little bit more, another quarter wavelength, now you got that ball coming up from the ground again. And you got all that radiation going straight up again. Unless you're interested in near vertical incident skywave, you've got your stuff going the wrong direction. So if you keep going up, you get the next half wavelength, that's 1.5 wavelengths. Look at there. Now you got 3 loops, 3 radiation rings. And then you go up to 175, which is halfway. There you go. You're losing more radiation straight up. The pattern repeats every half wavelength. Go down a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Here's the same pictures. Go up a little bit more so they can see the polar graph there. There you go. All right. So there it is, stepping through at various elevations, halfway, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2 wavelengths. See how that works? Sometimes a guy I see on the forum sometimes says, I raised my antenna up 20 feet and it's not working as well as it did at where I had it. Well, there's your reason. You probably have found inadvertently a good spot, and when you raised it up, you just destroyed your wave pattern, and now you got radiation going up and not going out. Okay, let's go back. Now, there's that up and down curve. You see this all the time. This is pretty basic stuff. Now, the one thing that I disagree with, because I just took my general test and what have you, is that in the test, they say that this curve goes down to 0, and that when I looked to see why they said that, it's in space. Well, okay, I suppose that's a good way to teach it to people, but that ain't the way it is when you're down on the ground. And what you're looking at there is the way it is. And when you talk about how high you are off the ground, if you can see right there at a quarter wavelength, that's between 0.00 and 0.5, there you're looking at the highest, the purple line, that's the highest impedance, and it's the lowest frequency that piece of wire is going to have. You can have, if you want to mess around a little bit, you can find a spot right in between there where the impedance is pretty close to 50 ohms. You get down to about 55 ohms, it says right there, and that's a decent match for coax. And you can see also that the frequency is gone down quite a bit. That means you have to lengthen it. Every time you take a dipole, and mess with it, you raise the frequency because you're shortening it. And right there, by moving it up and down, you're doing the same darn thing. So if you want to run a dipole at as close to matching a coax, you run it at about, it looks like about 0.3 wavelengths, and the impedance will be low. And if you lengthen it out, you can get right back on frequency. The only problem is you're not going to get much signal out because it's all being warming the ground and getting the worms warm. Oh, okay, on the side you can see an animation going there. That's the animation we were looking at before. Okay, go on down. I think I've already said that. It's every half wavelength where you see the best spot. So it's halfway, 1 wavelength, 1.5. And if you keep going up, you can see that with a wall, that line converges ultimately probably right about 72 ohms, which is what we talk about for a dipole. Okay, slide over a little bit to the so we can look at the selection page there. One of the first things you talk about is how do I get this antenna to fit into my attic? Well, bent end dipole is a pretty good example. This is what everybody does. You either bend the ends down or you bend them up. And if you do, what happens to the signal? Well, a lot of people worry about that. If you scroll down a little bit, there we have first you see there's the antenna model if you want to go mess around with it. But without having to do that. Here, I've done it all for you right there. You can see the red line is how does your gain change? Well, you look down below and you can see on the left side, that's perfectly straight. And as you go across and you bend 10% of the end or 20% of the end, that's 80%, 70%, 60%. The more you bend it, you see the gain starts to go down. So you can probably bend the ends to about 50 or 60% and not really have any particular problem with the antenna and tuning it and what have you. If you look at the green line there, like I said, every time you bend an antenna or it sags or you do something like that, you're making it a little shorter, and the frequency goes up, so you got to lengthen it a little bit. Well, that green line is how much to lengthen it, and on the right side it says in percentage how much you lengthen. So if you went out to about bending the antenna about halfway, it would be about, looks like maybe about almost 4%. You'd have to make it longer to bring the frequency back to where it was when it was straight. How about gain? The standing wave ratio, the blue line on the bottom. If you look at that, you start out with a standing wave ratio of about 1.3, which is what you would expect with a 72 ohm dipole into a 50 ohm line. But you notice how it goes down to 1. You can get almost a perfect match when you match it, or when you bend your antenna up to 50 or not quite, maybe about 60% of the length. It's a pretty neat way to make a compact antenna and get it to tune up if you lengthen it a little bit to get it back on frequency. That's all.
Dick, when I found your page, I got into it and I spent at least an hour, and I was just minimal into what's in there. This is just amazing stuff, and what's so good about it are the 3D capture of what happens. We've all seen the graphs, and that's okay, they're there, but you have really put it on the map when you can have all of those 3D graphs. Those are amazing.
Yeah, well, doesn't that make it so much clearer? All right, now here, look at here. This one of the other things that the 4NEC2 software does is, and it's part of the NEC core, is that you can isolate the vertical and the horizontal components, and so that's what it's showing right here. You can see that on the left is the horizontal. So there's dipole. It's still a plain dipole, but you can see on the right side, that's the vertical component. Well, where does that come from? Well, obviously from the bent ends. And so you have some signal going out off the ends now. And if you compare the pattern, the full pattern with a conventional dipole, you see that the pattern is fatter. It isn't as long because you're not having quite as much gain, but it's fatter because you got some gain coming out the sides from the vertical component right there.
There's just a tremendous amount of information there, and we hope that all the viewers can go check that page out. How long did it take you to do all of these?
Well, probably the most straightforward answer is about a year. The reason that it exists is that I had accumulated, I don't know, I must have had half a dozen binders full of modeling information on all kinds of things, and that was I can say that was about a 2-year accumulation before I started this. So I don't know, maybe the total thing might be about 3 years.
Wow. Well, we want to have you back here. We got to digest this a little bit. But Gordo, have you seen his stuff before, Gordo? What do you think?
I have. And, seeing it in color makes such a difference. Every so often, you'll see a manufacturer of an off-center fed dipole or a dipole send you a plot that's black and white. But nothing beats what Dick has done, putting it in color. So, Dick, thank you. You did a fabulous job. And I hope every single viewer and listener and shortwave listener will tune into your website. Dick, tell us one more time the best way to upload all this great information, Dick.
Probably the easiest way is just Google KK4OBI, and it comes right up. That's all over the. If you Google dipole, if you do bent dipole, any of these things, but the website is qsl.net, KK4OBI.
That is fabulous. Well, Dick, thank you so much for coming on board. I bet we'll have you back in an instant. And all of us that roll dipoles, and I certainly do here, and I know Bob's got a whole shot of dipoles that I've seen at his QTH. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and happy holidays, Dick, and thank you for joining us tonight on Ham Nation.
Gordon, you're a happy fellow. I can see that. You cover us real good. You make it easy to join up with a bunch of guys like you. Thank you very much.
Well, Dick, a Merry Christmas to your wife, and we'll be in touch. And what I want you to do, he just got his general license. We want you to fire up some antennas, and I know you can. And we'll get George and Gordo and all of us. We'll have to get on a big conversation and make it happen. What do you think, George? You think we can learn anything from all of that?
I think we can learn quite a bit about it. I wanted to ask Dick, how do you feel about the modeling there? Do you think that the models are going to fall out in the real world pretty much just like they do on the computer?
Well, you ask a question like that to somebody that's going to a university and is working in a laboratory and is trying to reproduce his experimental results to match his modeling results. The answer is yes. The NEC core used to be top secret military thing back during the war. Yeah, it works pretty good. But I don't get too excited if I'm not really close. I think the thing that most hams wonder is, what does my pattern look like? And if I did this, would it be any better? And that's really the kind of things that this bent dipole will give you an idea of what you're getting into or what you've got.
Absolutely.
Well, really great resource there, Dick. Thanks for that.
Okay, well, we're going to have to go run down the street, see what else is happening, but I'm so thrilled that you came on, Dick, and thanks for doing it so quickly. And we'll have you back real soon. So Merry Christmas to you, and enjoy your time on the air this weekend, because there's going to be a lot of things going on, a lot of antennas happening. So thanks very much, my friend. I appreciate you being here.
Appreciate it, too. You are a nice bunch of guys. I'm sitting here giggling all the time. Happy New Year.